All right, hi everybody. I'm Hannah Pogie Miller, and I did my internship at my second school, which is ACES ECA, which stands for Educational Center for the Arts. There, I am a theater major. I do theater from at least 1 to 4 every single day. It ranges from having about one class on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays, and then Tuesdays are our elective periods. There are 5 majors at ECA. That includes visual arts, which is our largest department, then dance, which is about our second largest. Combining with that, it's music, and that is vocals and or orchestra and or something that's along the lines of band. And then there's theater, and then lastly, creative writing. So my site intern supervisor, her name was Ingrid. She's the chair of the department, but I also worked with a few other people. So I worked with my teacher, Seth. It's first name basis, so I will be saying all my teachers by their first name. So there's Ingrid, Seth, Peter, and then I also worked alongside one of my very close friends. Her name is Ren, and she is an intern at Foreign High School. So why did I choose this site? Mostly convenience. I go there every single day. During the internship time, I really wanted to be able to do an internship, but I had tech week and rehearsals, so I thought, why not go there while I'm doing rehearsals? And I also help out a lot more than I can at this school because I'm there most of the time. So since I already help out, I thought it would be just a little bit more practical to help out with extra time in the morning. And so I already said a little bit about the business of the site. It is an audition-based school, so as an 8th grader and or a freshman or sophomore, you can choose to audition for 2 departments. Right now it is online because of COVID, but in my case, I got to go in and audition for the school, and then once you get accepted in, you can go and attend if you choose to. We accept from about 34 districts in Connecticut. And then if you aren't a part of that district, there is a sister school to it called RCA, which is on usually the west side. All right, so my expectations prior to the internship, I only expected that I was going to be working with Ingrid, like with house cleaning stuff and making sure everything was organized. And I didn't actually think that I was going to be doing as much with my other teachers, so I learned a lot more than I thought I would. So organization, I know how to organize already, like most of us do, so that was pretty easy, but I got to learn like how to actually use specific like technology pieces and different jobs in the field. So, because I worked with so many people, I'm just going to go down one by one with everyone I worked with. So this is Ingrid. She is the chair. So I did 3 major things with her. So we did new student orientation day. We have our new first years coming in, and we have our new sophomores and juniors. So we hosted like a get to know us day. So I ran that entire thing. I made everything with the theater department. I made up games, which was really fun to do. I made this poster, which took me 2 days because it was quite large. And then during the actual day, which was hosted on May 18th, I got to be with all of the students. There was about 88 of them. We played a game with beach balls. So we would throw the beach ball, and whatever question landed on your right thumb, you got to say to the group. And then they asked me personally to run my own game. So I held the microphone, and we kind of played like a blue or red. And then like Harry Potter or Percy Jackson, and everyone really loved the game. So then after that, I organized the library that is in Studio 70. That is a library hosting over 400 books, and that 400 books I organized in alphabetical order and threw out all of the old ones. And those books were older than all of us. I had books from like 1920 that I was just taking and blowing off and then chucking away. It was very old books. So we did all that. That took about 5 days. On Fridays we couldn't go in, so it would like go over to Monday, which was quite fun. And then lastly, which I was still working on while I was doing this presentation, but we finished today, was a prop closet. Our prop closet is also in Studio 70, which is one of the buildings on our open campus. And we went through, we threw out everything that was broken, looked kind of mangy, and we had too many duplicates of, and that took at least 9 days internship-wise. They allowed me to take the time during my actual class to take students from specific classes like Ingrid's class, which was one of my Broken Hearts classes that we did, which was a play, and I got to organize and tell everyone, like a teacher, what to do and where to organize, so that was really fun. So I just have a few photos of what it looked like. We had to try on all of the hats, of course, when we were going through the 13 bins of hats. We got to go to Walmart to get more black tape to label. That was at New Student Orientation Day. That's after blowing up all 10 beach balls by mouth. That's organizing the library, and then doing some drawing things for New Student Orientation Day. And now, this is what was supposed to be my video, but it's here now. Would you like to play for me? I would love you to. Yes. So, this is what the closet used to look like. Very messy, unorganized. They said that they do it almost every year. I doubt it. But we went through, and that was only all the things that were not wearable. And we went through. That's what it looked like from the last photo that I got to take of it. But today we finished it as I went in earlier today, and it is done. It looks awesome, so hopefully you'll get to see it at some point. But I did all of the labeling. I don't want to play the video again, actually. All right. Seth, this is our technical director. He does everything with lights, sound, and everything with stage production. So sometimes we'll do a stage production class, which is really fun. I did not get to be a part of one of those. But because of my internship, he actually got to take me and do a lot of those things that I would have received in a class. So some of the key points that I got to do in the arts hall at our school, there is a grid. And it's something that almost all of the students really want to go on. It is about 40 feet up on the ceiling. It is a wire grid that hosts all of the lighting in the arts hall, because since it is a church, it was kind of hard to convert it into a theater. So we found out that that grid was probably one of the first grids that was made in Connecticut, because the grid was invented by a very old professor who I do not know the name of because no one does, but we do know that he was a Yale professor. So our grid is one of the first grids in Connecticut, which is really cool. I learned how to do all of the soundboard. I got to do sound for one of the shows that we were doing called The Good Doctor, and that was just doing transitional music, so I got to sit right next to Seth the whole time during 3 performances and learn how to do those cues, which is really fun. And then after that, I was doing a show my first internship week, and it was our tech week, so I got to go on the grid and figure out and change all of the lights so they could hit all of the actors perfectly. Oh, too far back. All right, so that is us doing some stage tech stuff. We had to put some Velcro and roll it onto our stage platforms because we didn't want to see the back where the scrim was. That was just last week when we teched for a dance performance, and this is what a sound system looks like in the arts hall, and you can see the scrim in the back. That's kind of the back wall of that theater space. And then up there, that is actually us on the grid. So we are up hosting right next to a light, trying to make sure that the light is right in place. And then that is another photo, and you can see where the rafters are for the chairs. So it is very high up. The microphone's always in my way. So the rafters are very low, and that's really high up, but it is very safe. We learned all the safety precautions that you need to do to put in a grid, which is a lot for putting in safety lights, because the grid acts as your safety, but you need to have your safety wires on your lights just in case the grid doesn't work. So that is really cool. I learned the most out of all of this, which Seth taught me, and it was just fascinating that you can do all of this when it was kind of hard to describe, because I wish he was here to tell you. There's so much that I learned from it, but as a performer, I didn't think about this much when I was performing. So, and this is beloved Peter, one of my favorite teachers at ECA. So I needed extra hours because I was going to school, and I couldn't take my internship hours in my school day because I was actively learning and working. So I would go to Peter and ask him, like, hey, I know you're in tech week right now. Do you need any stagehands? I have internship hours that I need to complete. And I ended up being able to stay after and help all of the first years with their show that they were putting on, which I said earlier was A Good Doctor. And it's a play based on, like, short plays. So there's a lot of different small Russian stories within the play. So I got to stage manage, which was awesome. I've stage managed before my sophomore year, which was really fun, so I had a little bit of knowledge behind that. But since they were so good and they knew everything that they were doing, I did not need to be backstage. So this is the opportunity where I got to actually do sound. So I learned all of the skills I learned with Seth, I was able to apply, which was awesome. And then for one of the shows, they asked me if I could be like their photographer, so I got to take photos of what they were doing on stage, which was really fun, and then the cast pictures at the end. So these are Peter and Ben. I got to help Peter and Ben out, which was awesome. So some of my accomplishments, being able to work New Student Orientation Day, that was awesome. Because of COVID, there used to be like an audition day that I was asked to do, but it got canceled. So this was kind of like my makeup, like, oh, you get to be a part of it now. So I was super happy about that. I've never effectively like worked on lighting before. I've been in the booth watching, but I've never been like hands-on working on the lights. Really fun. I found a lot of enjoyment out of that. And then, as I said before, it kind of taught me the importance of all of the jobs in the field, because as the audience sees, you can only see some lighting cues, you can see the performers on stage, and you can see the set design, but you don't necessarily see a lot of the people in the background and all the things that has to go behind during a show. So some of my struggles, I learned that the job just keeps going. So I would finish a task and I'd be so happy that I finished a task, and then Ingrid would look at me and go, great, now let's do this. And then I'd be like, okay, like, time to move on. So there would be days where I'd work for Ingrid in the morning, then I would do my school myself from 1 to 4, and then right after that I would go right into a different job. So I'd be going from job to job to job. So I'd work on communications, then I'd be a performer, and then I'd be a technician, which was something that not a lot of people get the opportunity to do in the field. So my biggest takeaway is my last accomplishment, learning that everyone is needed in the field and everything is equally as important. The performers would not get to perform if it weren't for the technicians, and the show wouldn't even be put up if it weren't for the people like Ingrid or the people doing communications. And so my future plans, I already knew that I was going to go into something involving art and or theater. So my current major is Arts and Entertainment Management, which is a lot of what I did with New Student Orientation Day, and making sure that all the plans were taken and made and done well. So that is what I'm planning to do at Dean. Along with that major, it also goes into like producing and making a good theater company or making a good movie. So I'm very excited to see that sort of realm that I did not get in my internship. I'm also hoping to take a minor in performance, but sometimes that doesn't necessarily coincide with the college because I will be doing stuff for the performers. So I won't be able to be a performer, but I might be able to take a minor in tech, which I did not think I would actually find interest in. So if I didn't do the thing with Seth, I would not know that I had that interest. So I'm very thankful that I have that interest now. And I will be continuing my internship through the end of the year because ECA is still running right now. So after this, I will be going to ECA. And then tomorrow I will go to my internship. But if I do not get to finish a lot of my accomplishments that I wanted to, or the school year ends, Ingrid said that I can take some volunteer hours out in the summer and be able to finish all of that right before I go to college. And that was my internship. Okay. All right. So I believe now is time for questions. If anyone has any questions, I can be happy to answer them. Yes.
What is your favorite aspect of tech?
Definitely going up on the, I think it's everyone's, but going up on the grid and like actually working on the lighting. It was really fun to learn how the light actually worked. The lights in the arts hall are actually cone lights. So instead of hitting like the circle spotlights that are usually in generic movies or cartoons, they kind of peer out like a cone. So we learned how to exactly spot a light, and then it's backwards because the shaft of the light is like a mirror. So we had to learn the opposites, which is really awesome. So I think that is definitely my favorite part of tech right now, and I really want to learn more about. Yes.
You touched upon, obviously, an important concept that you had another perspective from being a performer, now being on the other side.
Mm-hmm.
With internships, it's important to also figure out what may be something you know now that you're not interested in. Is there anything that you did in this experience that you were like, you know, I could never do this as a profession or major or something like that?
I don't really enjoy doing sound that much. I think
Cross that off the list.
Yeah, as like, if I were to be in the technician field, I would have to do it. It's definitely something that like I'd be like okay with doing, but I would never make a full-time job out of it because it is one of the most boring things. You just sit and then you press the space bar and then you hope that you press the right sound.
Okay.
So there is that, but I also probably found a little bit more enjoyment because I was doing it for people that I actually knew. Is that it?
Yeah, I was just gonna ask you what your biggest challenge was.
Biggest challenge. I think the biggest challenge was like I wanted to be able to do everything, but I knew that I couldn't. Because like I would get there and I'd be like, give me something new, and then she'd be like, just finish one thing at a time. So it was just making sure that I'd finish one thing at a time. Also, time management was really difficult because I would get there, I'd have to be there no earlier than 9:30, but they let me count like driving hours. So I couldn't be there at 9:30, and then I'd have until about 12, so I'd have to finish all I could in 2 hours, the most. So I'd be only working on a little bit of time, so I'd have to try to negotiate and try to find more time to dedicate. So a lot of the stuff I was doing was at home. So it was a lot less free time than I expected.
Welcome to adults.
It's free time.
Okay. Any other questions?
Talk to us a little bit about, you know, you were a student at ECA and
Yes.
then you interned at ECA, and so it's almost like roles reversed. Like, you
Yeah.
so how was that experience for you?
It was honestly really interesting because I would go in and then I'd be in class doing something, and then my teacher, if I'd be with Ingrid throughout the day, I have different teachers. I have a very weird circumstance. So if I would be with my site supervisor, she'd be like, oh, I need to do this, this, and this, so I can't be here right now. Oh, wait, Hannah, you should just go do it. So there'd be times where I would be the student, but also the intern, and so it would get really confusing. I didn't really know, so I would be to a point where I know more than Ingrid would. So she would be confused, and then I'd answer the question, and she'd be like, oh, I'm just so glad to have you. Like, what am I going to do without an intern all year? So it was like, not only am I taking the classes, but she also made it super easy for me to just, like, sit and watch what was going on. So I was kind of, like, dual working. Awesome.
Very good. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, so my internship site was Jenkins Family Chiropractic. This is the photo you'll find on their website. And if you notice, my site supervisor, he's here with us today in the back. All right, so hi, I'm Aurora Rakowski, as many of you know. I'm going to Penn State this fall, I'm majoring in nursing. I'll be at the Ross and Carol Neves College of Nursing. And outside of this internship, I've been completing my CNA clinical hours, which is why I'm here today in scrubs. So as you can see, I have a deep interest in the medical field, and this is one step of carving my pathway there. During my time here, I've taken CNA 1 and 2, human anatomy, medical terminology, pharmaceutical chemistry, and this just solidified it all. So, all right, so my internship site, Jenkins Family Chiropractic. So Jenkins Family Chiropractic is located on 97 Gulf Street, which is just past like the downtown green area. So on the outside, it is very almost hidden, but on the inside, it's very warm and welcoming. So I took pictures of the office here, and as you can see, it's very open. All of the tables here are right like across from the waiting room, so you know, really, everybody can see, which isn't a bad thing. And then here's the receptionist desk, which is obviously there too. And I also spent some of my time there with one of the 3 receptionists. And I included this random photo because upon arrival, when you walk in there, you're asked to sign in. And I thought this was really cool because, I mean, in doctor's offices, like you go to receptionist and sign in. Whereas like here, you literally go to a tablet, like write your name, put your phone number in, and you're in his system and he knows that you're there for him. So that was really fun. All right, the team. So, the guy, this is Dr. Jenkins. This is my site supervisor. I learned a lot from him during my time here. I shadowed him, obviously. I was in exam rooms with him upon new patient evaluations, just regular evaluations. I looked at x-rays with him, I handled phone calls with him, I handled insurance companies with him. So a lot of my learning and experience from this internship did come from Dr. Jenkins. He is the doctor of the house, he's the face of the office, 13 years of schooling under his belt, so you know, he knows what he's doing. This is Kimberly, or as I call her, Kimmy, in many of my journals. This is the face, the name. She is one of 3 of his receptionists, and I included her in the team because I learned a lot about the receptionist work from her as well. There was times where I like shadowed her in a sense, and I kind of saw how she checked people in, checked people out, how she charged cards that were on file, cards that weren't on file, handled checks, cash payments, which is something I had to handle a few mornings myself. And what's different about Dr. Jenkins in his office is he brings his furry friends to work almost every day. So he rotates between 2 of his dogs, Winnie and Romo, which there's one. Yeah, and I included him because, you know, I think it's important to have that, like, anxiety relief for, like, the little kids who come there and they're like, you know, they're not really sure what's going on. So it's just like a friend, you know, like it's something to go to when you arrive there. And it's a talking point for new patients. I remember there was one patient who came in and she goes, "Where's the dog?" Because it was the day that we didn't bring him in. So, you know, it's just kind of a selling point for the office too. Okay, so the burning question, why this site? Going into this internship, I knew generally what I wanted to do. I knew that I wanted something in the medical field. I thought, you know, my ideal, maybe a hospital with exactly the career pathway that I wanted to go to, but in the day of COVID, that is obviously not realistic. And also, there is a such thing as HIPAA laws, and because I haven't gone through that training, it's also not within reach. So when choosing an internship site, I widened my horizons. You know, they said, think outside of the box, and that's what I did. I, at first, had a little bit of trouble finding an internship site, I'm not gonna lie. Everywhere I reached out, it was a little bit of a dead end, but thanks to the Devon Rotary, Ms. Burns was introduced to Dr. Jenkins, and when she mentioned it to me during my, meeting with them, I emailed him that day, and I set it up. So that's how we got there. Okay, so the business of the site. If you go on Dr. Jenkins' website, it breaks down clearly for you exactly what chiropractic work does, what the benefits of are, what he's doing, how it works for you long term. But I think that the most important aspect of this business is a quote that he said to me multiple times, and that's medicine works from the outside in, chiropractic works from the inside out. So on the website, he says that chiropractic work is a non-invasive, non-medical type of healthcare, and it's very true. So obviously, as you saw, it's a very open space. So upon their time there, you get adjusted based upon what you need. And Dr. Jenkins takes many of his patients through like a couple of different stages of progress, basically, and how you evaluate that progress. And you don't have to be hurt or get into a car accident to go to a chiropractic office, which is a misconception, I believe. I know I thought that at first. He asked me, he was like, well, why do you think people come here? Car accidents, right? They got to get adjusted. Not the case. You can be perfectly healthy and still go there. It's all about the maintenance of the spine and how that helps with your overall well-being. So, yeah. All right, so my expectations. Going into this internship site, I really wasn't sure what I was going to be able to do. I truly didn't. I've never gone to a chiropractic office before. The doctors I know is like Milford Pediatrics and Yale New Haven. So I wasn't sure, and again, HIPAA laws, I really didn't think I'd be able to do much with patients or handle anything with patients. I knew that maybe I'd be able to sit in on a couple of evaluations, but with their permission, and I know some people don't really like that, so I truly didn't know what to expect. I honestly didn't think it would be as hands-on as it was. I thought I'd truly only be like observing, shadowing. My thought process going into this is it's knowledge, and it's the form of knowledge that I can get, so we're gonna do, any way to possibly learn. All of this was proven otherwise, which I'll get into. All right, so my responsibilities during my time there. I had a lot of responsibilities, which was kind of cool. Patient contact, I was in charge of bringing patients to exam rooms. I was in charge of filling out patient evaluation work and charging files, checking them in and out, answering phones. I also most recently started recording and taking notes during the evaluation exams. So as you all know, doctors, they take notes, they ask you questions just to get like past medical history, know about your life socially in a sense, get a feel for what they're working with. And I was actually able to take all those notes for Dr. Jenkins, which I thought was really fun because my doctors have like digital notes, so it was cool. Behind the scenes, I changed patient records from active to inactive in the cloud. So at his office, everything runs on a big cloud. Also, I was in charge of going through physical patient files, like actual records that were past 7 years old. And I would go through those. I'd pull out everything because there's a big shredding fest coming up, actually. So I helped Dr. Jenkins get through that because I know it was one of his tasks on his list. I think literally one morning I was there from like 9 to 12, and within that like 3-hour span, I got 3 tubs of patient files just like fully done. Behind the scenes also opening and closing down the office, which means getting the cloud booted, turning on all of the different TVs. And then there is the, just like you're gathering trash and face papers from the day and then restocking face paper because we go through that a lot. He's a busy man. Observations. So I shadowed Dr. Jenkins, as I mentioned, and this included evaluating and measuring x-rays, which I really enjoyed, patient exams, patient adjustments, insurance billing at the end of the month. That was a different experience I never knew of. Entering patients into the cloud, receptionist desk work, and also I shadowed him setting up appointments with diagnostic imaging, because we all know that like when you go to the doctor and you gotta get images, they set it up for you. Well, I got to see him set it up. So that was also very interesting. So my accomplishments, I think I accomplished a lot, to be honest. Improved patient interaction. When I went there at the start of it, Dr. Jenkins all the credit to him because he's the reason I was introduced to his patients. He told me he wanted me to get to a spot where I was comfortable introducing myself, and I think I did that. You know, when patients come in, some people recognize me because I'm there almost every day, and some people, they're like, oh, who are you? So just explaining why I'm there, what I'm doing, I think that was a growth in of itself. And I gained comfortability with the responsibilities granted to me. At first, I was thrown for a bit of a roller coaster, if you will. I mean, my work experience is at Devon Subway, so I don't know how to handle any of this. So getting comfortable with the fact, you know, that I was given so many, like, tasks. I learned more about the anatomy of the spine from x-rays, and this, like, would be more so learning about the physiology of the central nervous system through x-rays, imaging, and observing Dr. Jenkins work with patients. My knowledge from a spine strictly comes from medical term and CNA, and the extent of it goes to knowing there's 5 cervical, 12 thoracic, and 7, or no, I did that wrong, sorry. 7 cervical, 12 thoracic, and then 5 lumbar. Okay, yeah, that's right. That's the extent of my knowledge, and probably still is, but I gained knowledge from both the perspective of the doctor and the patient through shadowing and going through the process of being his patient. So that was really cool. Dr. J put me in as a new patient, I still am, and he thought that like my best way of learning this would probably to experience it from both ends, and he was 1,000% right. So I went through the evaluations. I had my mom there. We were talking about my own medical history and the medications I take, and you know, just my daily regimen, the sports I've done, the activities that I do, and I showed him some of my x-rays that I previously had done this year, and yeah, so now I've been adjusted as well, and I know from his standpoint what he was looking at, so that was really cool. And then when we talk about measurements, so I learned a lot about the curvature of how your spine is supposed to be. So your cervical is supposed to be 30 degrees, and then the thoracic is anywhere between 40 and 50, and that really just depends on gender, it seems like. Men closer to 40, women closer to 50. I gained an understanding about insurance companies and how they profit from smaller offices. I don't handle my own insurance. My mom does. I knew about insurance companies in terms of the hospital because of CNA. That's something that we cover, but it's not as in-depth as when you ask a doctor himself. And so when I asked Dr. J, you know, why do you do Blue Cross Blue Shield, right? Why did you choose that and not another? Well, he explained it to me in simplistic terms, as much as I can handle. Basically how they profit and how they profit off of limiting doctors. So it's all about what's going to be best for the patient, but also best for the business aspect, which was something that blew my mind, to be quite honest. And I learned a couple of tricks on how to evaluate vertebrae. So Dr. J has his patients lay down, and something that I observed very frequently was the difference in leg lengths. And Dr. J has them, you know, push outwards, push inwards, bend at the knees, push up. And all of those different tricks kind of hint towards which vertebrae within the neck that he should go for, which was also really cool because who knew? And I even got to feel some of the patients and like their bones, which was really fun. And then I learned about myself that fast-paced environments are truly for me. Which, back to your question for Hannah about what would I not do, I realized that receptionist work might not be for me. And not because it's bad or that I don't like it, it just makes me very anxious. So I realized that might not be for me, but you know, helping patients, that's something I really enjoyed. Okay, so how did I learn through my own spine? As you tell, these are my x-rays, and then that is just a stock image of a normal x-ray that I found online, which is supposed to be like the best spine examination, right? So as you can see, obviously, clearly they have that perfect curve. Mine does not. Right? So it's lacking that. And then my time there, Dr. J, he calls them owls. And it's the easiest way to learn it, to be quite honest with you. It's the very point of your vertebrae, right in front. If you're looking at it frontal, you could see like these are the sides, that's the front. And then when you take like the ones that are perfectly aligned and you draw a straight line through them, obviously a little bit more in depth besides what I'm saying, and then you could see some of mine are even shifted. They're not completely in center. So that was something we looked for. And then from the side, a lot of patients, they had spurring in their spines, which hinted at arthritis, which was fun to see too. Also, I learned that the colors of the x-ray, the denser something is, the whiter it appears, right? As you can see, this neck, clearly, you can really just see the bones. Mine, you can basically see everything. So when patients come in and they have x-rays where their muscles look like that, it hints at muscle spasming, which was crazy because when I got this done at the hospital, they said, like, there's nothing wrong. Clearly, there is. Which was also fun to learn about because there's a doctor's point of view and then there's, a chiropractic doctor's point of view, So yeah, that was cool. And speaking of their views, I learned the difference between a medical x-ray and Dr. J's Jenkins views. That's what he calls it. So as he explains it, when you take an x-ray, it's kind of like a flashlight. You have, kind of as it goes out, it expands, right? Same thing with an x-ray and the rays that it shoots. In a medical field, they'll probably shoot at like the base of the skull, C1 maybe, but that distorts most of your spine when they look at these examinations because it kind of, makes things appear distorted, larger, out of place. When Dr. Jenkins does his, he focuses in at that C3, C4 area, and that way that anything that's getting distorted is the shoulders to the top of the skull, like, those two ends. So what he's looking at is a very clear image of what's truly going on in there. And this is something that I wanted to include because this was really cool. When I was going through my own evaluation, Dr. J has something similar to this in his office, but as you can see, the central nervous system truly does work in the function of our bodies. And each vertebrae that houses our central nervous system, if it's shifted, tilted, it can be pinching or just like blocking basically the function of our central nervous system. And each different nerve attaches to many of our organs. So I thought that was really, really cool because I never thought of it in this depth. What were my challenges? I have a great fear of messing up. That is a big challenge. I was, as you know, I got very anxious doing some of the work that I did there, but it pushed me out of my comfort zone, which is good. I didn't know how to fill out checks or fax things or scan documents because I'm turning 18 this month and my mom handles my paperwork. So that was something that I learned to do, and he was very nice about it. So was his receptionist, my lack of experience. I learned how to schedule based around like how a different office works. When you go to the doctor's office, you tell them, they give you times and you choose. Being on that other end where you have to look at the schedule and know basically how that doctor operates, how their office operates, the business in like flow at different times in the day. That was something that I really had to learn. One day when we had a huge thunderstorm, I accidentally booked Dr. J for a new patient evaluation at like one of his busiest times. And everybody flowed in, and because of the thunderstorm, the cloud went down. So I really threw him for a loop that day. And then also just introducing myself and explaining why I was there following him around awkwardly. In conclusion, the skills that I developed, time management, scheduling for myself and also the office, it was a lot. I had the CNA classes, I have work. I'm going to my college this week even, and on top of that, I had to make sure I was getting my hours. So that was a really big thing. Communication, talking to Dr. J inside and outside the office. This was a big one because my boss is my mom. So I've never talked to anybody outside of like, in a workplace environment who I wasn't related to. That was a big thing, especially on days where I was like, I might not make it, anxiety. So that was something that I think I developed. talking with patients in person and on the phone. Sometimes it's hard to reel them in on the phone, but it's all right. We got there. And then talking to each receptionist at the end of the day of what was previously accomplished and what had to be completed. Like I said, there's 3 of them there. They have a communications notebook, but also in person, it's a good thing to talk about like what you did. Take responsibility for everything that you did the day previously, especially if something was messed up. I know that I scanned a document and I didn't know how to label it, and then one of them was like, "What is this?" You know, and I had to take ownership because, you know, I'm still learning. Technology, like I said, everything runs in a cloud, which far beyond my reach. I know there was like the tech savvy generation, but we're truly not. And then learning like the foundation of the office, which is primarily the documentation and payments. That was something I think I developed too, just understanding the business aspect behind it too. Patient body language, which is a different one. I don't think I've seen people include this, but I think this is a skill that I developed, and I think it's also really important because there was little kids there, and one day I was shadowing Dr. J, obviously, and one of the little girls, she was kind of like nervous, like she didn't want to, you know, get adjusted while I was standing there watching. So, you know, you just have to pick up on the cues that like you're not wanted, but it's not in like a defensive way. It's just, you know, it's like, why is this random person watching me, you know? And then also in evaluations, when you're going over diagnoses, the patients tend to make self-deprecating jokes as a form of getting through what they're being told, which nothing against them. I do the same exact thing, you know, but just understanding that and being able to recognize that it's like a source of anxiety, fear, whatever it may be. I think that's going to be valuable down the road, especially if I want to go into a healthcare field and work with a bunch of different people. You got to be able to pick up on those things. In conclusion, so how did this help me in terms of my future? Well, it gave me experience, specifically in a smaller office setting, but I think I learned so much in such a controlled environment to apply it to the real world. And it prepared me for shadowing doctors down the road. When you go into the medical field, you're going to have to shadow people, you're going to have to do clinicals. Just being prepared to follow them around, do what they tell you, and then comprehending things and learning quick. I think that will help me down the road. And it granted me an opportunity and experience that some people may not have. So, you know, we talk about labels, we talk about applications, and I think with this experience listed on it, it'll set me apart from other people, especially. It offered me insight from a doctor who doesn't use medicine to heal people. This was something I really had to like wrap my mind around, because Dr. J says that like medicine is the cure of the symptomology, which when you take a medication, you're curing the symptoms, you're not curing the issue, which that was something I never thought about. And I take my fair share of meds, okay? So to be around somebody who like comes from a standpoint that you can work with the body itself to fix internal issues was something beyond my mind. I also learned from Dr. Jenkins, this is very valuable, that in nursing school and the medical field, they tell you to acknowledge the problem, like that the patient is telling you, but there's not much sympathy behind it most times. And I've seen it in my own day-to-day life, like my own experience at the CNA clinicals. Sometimes nurses, doctors, whatever it may be, they lack the empathy when you talk to them about their problems. They simply tell you, okay, and they write it down. Dr. J, through the many exams that I've been with him through, he talks to them like they're his friend, like they're another person to him. So I think that's very important, because I definitely hope to be some type of change in the world in the future, especially in the medical field. And I also learned from a lot of the patients that are there, because he has nurses, he has other chiropractic doctors that come in there, and there's one patient in particular, and she's in midwifery, and one morning she got adjusted, and we were just talking about the medical field and her own hospital, and how like there was budgeting cuts and how important she felt it was for moms to have different options when they're giving birth. And it really just opened my eyes to a lot of things that, you know, none of us would know unless you were there working in that environment. So just learning about that stuff through other people and their experiences, in addition to Dr. J, was something that was really nice. okay, what's next? I'm attending Penn State this fall, majoring in nursing for a bachelor's and hope to get a master's. And then I think after this, I'm going to probably take up as many opportunities that I can for an internship along the way. Yeah, and that's it. Any questions? Yes.
So you touched on bedside manner a lot. So now being a patient yourself and then seeing a different way of doing things, is that something you're going to concentrate on as you move forward? Do you see
Yes.
Do you see the importance of that? In this, okay, you must have had some sort of experience.
Yeah, I've had my fair share of doctors. I've had my fair share of nurses, encounters with people. I've even experienced that, like I said, at the clinical setting. And you can tell when patients, they're not getting that empathy that they deserve at like such a vulnerable state. They kind of become standoffish, irritated even. It's just the subtle changes in the way that you handle with those situations. And even at your busiest days, the busiest hour, when you're frustrated because things aren't going right that day, you just gotta brush it off and be there for the patient, because if you're not, then it puts a barrier in between the care that you can give and the care they can receive. So, yeah.
Right, I don't really have a question, but I know you struggled to find a place, and it just feels like when they say it was meant to be, it was meant to be, because it sounds like you had such a fabulous experience, and from your presentation, I literally felt like I was there for some of it, you know?
Yeah.
So I'm so thrilled for you. It was a really good presentation.
Yeah, small world. He knows a couple of, like, my aunt through my cousin, I guess, my dad's cousin, his wife. Dr. J and her, like, went to school together. I'm pretty sure he went to school with either, like, I think my uncle maybe, because they played football with Rakowski. Yeah, small world. I tell you, it was meant to be.
You was, yeah, it was great. Thank you. Question from
Not
the
a
boss.
question at all, just a comment, but I'm floored. I'm floored by what she took away, because I did not realize how much of an experience she had in my office, because there were times where I thought that it was slow and I was looking for things to include and make sure that she had value in that day. Not realizing some of the things that she was observing from a distance, or, you know, yes, it was hugely valuable for me to have her shred some of the old documentations that we don't need anymore. But what is really fascinating sitting here now is hearing how she took away experience, life experience, business experience, clinical experience from simple actions that were tedious, that were just mundane, or I really wanted and enjoyed having her in the exam rooms with me, and that's why towards the end had her start actually taking the notes as I'm speaking to the patient, and asking the questions, and having Aurora do the note taking through that will then be entered into our system. And I've never, I will tell you, I've had interns in my office, I haven't allowed anybody to do that yet, and that's a tribute to you and your ability to have read some of the comfort levels of the patients in there, and I think you did a fantastic job, and I was happy to have you there.
Oh. Look at that. I didn't even use my notes.
Great job.
Okay, so I did my internship at the Bridgeport Emergency Department, but it's the Milford campus, so it's basically just Milford Hospital, but they Yale took it over, so they had to change names, but yeah. So I'm Erie Frank. I will be attending Hofstra University this fall, so it's on Long Island, and I'll be majoring in biology on the pre-med track. So like Aurora said before, I have taken so many courses for the medical field because I've been interested in the medical field as long as I can imagine. So I've taken AP Bio, Human Anatomy, the CNA course that we're taking together, and then one that I found most helpful for this is medical terminology, which I will get into later. But my dream in life is to become a physician's assistant, and working in the emergency department in this internship has only strengthened my goals and aspirations for becoming one. Okay, so I interned at the Bridgeport Emergency Department on Milford campus, so that's kind of where I knew I was going, sort of, emergency department. So, and then this is just a picture. This is where I kind of was the whole time because it's the emergency bay. But so who did I kind of follow around? So this is Ashley Snyder. She's a physician's assistant and she's certified, so that's what the C is. But I have done so many past just shadowing opportunities with her, and that's how I kind of got my community service hours through kind of shadowing her and following her around in the ER. So I knew that this internship would be I knew I wanted to do it with her because I've learned so much from her in the past, and I just knew that I would take away a lot from her. So my experience, so why did I choose the Bridgeport ER? So my experience again, so just being there in the past and having that kind of comfort, I was comfortable there, I knew a lot of people there, they knew me, so I just knew that it was a great environment, and I never had a bad experience whatsoever, so I knew that it was somewhere where I can go, be comfortable, and take away so much information. Inclusion, again, I'm a high school student, obviously, so, me just following around this physician's assistant is kind of awkward again, but none of them kind of treated me like a high schooler. They were talking to me about all this stuff. The other doctors would come in and be hey, if you have any questions, let me know. They were just so inclusive, sort of, and I didn't feel like I was a senior in high school, just kind of thrown into the ER, falling around, not knowing anything. So participation as well. So in the past, the summers I would go and shadow, I just knew that I'd be able to do a lot, too. Because they're very come help me with this, because in the ER, it's an emergency department, so you can't really have a high schooler do anything because I'm not certified for anything. I can't really help with much, so it's all observational, but I knew that here I could get the best out of it. And then again, familiarity, because I was just very familiar with everything. I knew where everything was. I already kind of had that baseline with all the doctors there, so it kind of wasn't a new face. So this is their little business. So it says, at Bridgeport Hospital, our quality mission is to achieve superior patient satisfaction resulting from optimal clinical outcomes in an efficient, compassionate environment. Providing top quality care and safety are key priorities. We are committed to continuously improving the patient experience through the utilization of performance management initiatives. So this basically explains their business and wanting to satisfy each particular patient and having a big success in doing so. So my expectations. So again, I shadowed here last summer for a long time, so I knew it was going to be amazing. I knew I would love it, and I knew that I would learn a lot, especially following Ashley, the PA that I was following with. So I expected a handful of learning and patient care skills that I could take away and have it follow with me into my medical journey. And I expected to fall in love with everything that comes with being a physician's assistant because I'm with her, she had 10-hour shifts, so I was with her forever. And I just kind of, it was an appreciation that I never knew that I was going to have. So I figured that it would really make me want to be into that field. So what were my responsibilities? So again, I'm a senior in high school, so I couldn't really do much hands-on activities, which is explainable. So it was mostly just observational. So it was watching Ashley just go into the room where the patient was and doing her initial assessment and just kind of standing there observing her conversations, her body language, just everything it is with the patient. And I was able to all like the patient charting is like remote, it's like online, but I was able to go through like when she ordered labs, and she would like read the labs back to me. I was able to see x-rays, stuff like that, just like all about the patient history, which I thought was cool. And then listening to the treatment options and like the diagnoses. So we would go in for like an initial assessment, and then we would go back into her like little room where all the doctors were with their computers, and she would kind of just talk to me about like what she observed, like what their labs say, and then like what she's going to do kind of from there on as like a diagnosis and treatment. And then just observing like the discharge processes and like the discharge papers, her conversation with them with like going home, picking up medicine, stuff like that. And I will say, I thought that there was a lot, like, kind of, like, less to being a PA, because a lot of people think, like, oh, they're not, like, a doctor, they're not an ER doctor, they can't really do that much, but it's not like that at all. It's actually, like, a lot less schooling, and which is why I want to go into this, because she was able to, like, it kind of depends on what, like, attending you're under, but she was able to, like, go into the room, like, get their story, get their treatment, like, up with a diagnosis herself, and then she'd just have to, like, run it under the doctor that was there. But I just thought it was amazing because she was in there by herself. Like, it was just so smart. Like, she just knew exactly what was going on. So, yeah. So what were my accomplishments? So I honestly thought, like, my expectations that I wouldn't really, like, learn how to do a lot because it is so much, like, observational. So, like, yeah, I would get a lot of knowledge, but I wasn't, just, like, the tasks that I learned, I was very surprised with. So I actually learned how to suture a laceration. So I watched her a few times with, like, some finger lacerations and stuff like that, and I was, like, fascinated. That's how I knew I wanted to go into medical field, because, like, I wasn't sick. I was, like, smiling. I was like, that's so cool, like, because, like, fingers falling off, and I'm, like, laughing. So I actually was given, it's this exact kit. So it comes with, like, fake skin, and there's just, like, different kind of cuts in the skin, like, different lengths and stuff like that, so you kind of just have to suture it. So I've been doing that in my free time. And it comes with, like, sutures and, like, the, like, tweezers and scissors as well, so that was awesome. And I learned all about the heart and what leads to AFib, so it's, like, arterial fibrillation. And I was actually, this is, like, the best day of my life, like, so far, because I was in the ER, and I was with Ashley, and she was splinting a patient's leg, and there was, like, all this commotion going on. She's like, Avery, go in that room, like, see what you can find out, like, this is boring, like, go. So I went into the room, and there was a patient her heart was in AFib, and so the cardiologist took me, and he was like, I'm gonna teach you all about this, and, like, you're gonna like shock her heart back. And I was like, what? I was, like, freaking out. I'm like, I'm not shocking this lady's heart back, like, it's not happening. But so he told me all about it, and it's when your heart's upper chamber, so, like, your atria, beats out of line with your heart's lower chambers, so your ventricles, so it kind of, like, makes, like, a very chaotic beat. And I found a picture online because it's the best I could do. But if you could see, the bottom is, like, very short beats of your heart, and the top is, like, your normal. So there's, like, 2 little bumps, and then the big one. This one only has 1, and they're, like, a lot closer together. So in order to stop that, you have to use, like, a defibrillator, and you shock the patient, and their heart stops for, like, a split second, and then it starts back up again at, like, a normal rhythm. So I was able to do that. And it was so scary, but it was, like, the most, like, amazing thing ever. So, like, I was in the room with the patient, and they put her on anesthesia just because it was going to hurt really bad, because it's, like, your heart's getting, like, electrocuted from the shock. So I the pads were on her. I watched the patient, like, fall asleep from the anesthesia, and then I got to press the charge button and then deliver the shock, and then I actually yelled, like, clear, so it's kind of like the movie thing going on, and, like, everybody stepped back, and it was, like, the coolest thing ever. I was, like, so happy. It's, like, it doesn't seem like a lot because it's, like, a defibrillator, but I was, like, laughing. I was, like, so happy, like, smiling from ear to ear, just because it was so fun. And then she was like, that's how you know you want to go in the medical field, because the patient, like, jumped up, too, and they tried to scare me, and I'm like, this is so cool. Like, and then, so yeah, I learned how to do, like, the initial assessment of a patient. So basically, whenever a patient comes in, you kind of just, like, ask them, like, what brought you in today, stuff like that. And then when you go to, like, your examination, you're kind of just feeling everywhere, like, their belly, their arms, just to make sure, like, what happened, make sure their belly's not distended or anything like that, just to get, like, an idea if anything hurts. And then I learned, this is probably one of the most important things I was taught, and it's you learn how to treat the patient and not just their lab reports. So a lot of time, there was one scenario where a patient came in and their blood pressure was like through the roof, and I was like, my jaw dropped. I was like, is that her blood pressure? And she was like, she's fine, like treat the patient, not the number. And she kept like repeating that to me, because somebody can just walk through a store and have like the highest blood pressure ever, but they could be totally fine. And then it could be the other way around. So it's kind of just like you kind of have to assess the patient first and not what the labs say about the patient. So that was very important. I also learned the importance of treating your patient like a person, not somebody who's just there because they're hurt. And this kind of touches on what Aurora was saying before about like the whole empathy scenario and everything like that, because no matter what they're coming in for, you kind of have to listen to their story. You have to listen to why you're there. And I was very fortunate to be following Ashley, and she, like, her bedside manner is amazing. Like, she always is trying to do whatever she can to just make the patient comfortable and feel better. And that is something that I learned that I'll take with me, like, through my whole entire career, because I'm a very, like, from even the CNA scenario, like, seeing patients, like, feel either, like, neglected or feeling, like, just not listened to, like, makes me upset. Because I'm just that person. So it has really taught me a lot about making sure that they feel heard and that they're taken care of. And no matter how, like, if you're so busy, no matter how annoying it might be, just making sure that, like, they're okay, they understand what's going on, and they're comfortable. So I also wanted to include this picture because I also learned how to read x-rays while I was there. So this is a chest x-ray of a patient. And so as you can see, these here are your lungs. They're not really that big. They're kind of enlarged. And then on this side, you can see how it kind of stops. And at first I was like, oh, like she had like half of a lung. Like I didn't know what was going on. And then I realized that all this white was all fluid. So she had a lot of fluid in her lung. So in order to get that away, you'd have to have it like fluid drained from your lung. But this was also kind of like a learning experience because the patient was very old. She was like in her 90s. And she also had like heart failure going on, and like she had like a very low number of like red blood cells, so she would need a transfusion. But because she was so old, she didn't really want to do all that, and she kind of just, I know it's kind of sad, but she kind of just wanted to like die. And so I was a part of like a conversation, and Ashley told me, she's like, Avery, like you don't have to come and you don't have to be a part of this because it's going to be sad. But I was kind of like, no, I want to because I'm going to have to do it anyways. So I was kind of just sitting there. I didn't really say anything, obviously, but it was kind of just, it made me appreciate that conversation coming from a doctor and coming from a PA. And I feel like a lot of people don't understand how hard it is to tell somebody that they're at the end of life coming from the doctor rather than the patient. So I was involved in that conversation. I learned a lot about hospice because the patient wanted to be put on hospice. So that's something that I could never do because it's just devastating. But I'm glad that I took the opportunity to be a part of that conversation to kind of just set me in the way because I'm going to have to do it anyway, so I'd rather just do it now and kind of know how to handle it. Okay, so what challenges did I face? My challenges were more like fears. I didn't really have any like set challenges there, but I was just afraid of like making any mistakes, especially regarding HIPAA, because I had to go through like a bunch of HIPAA training like last summer, like when I started the shadowing. So that's kind of why I was able to take this internship, because I already did everything like during COVID. And then I was also afraid of being in the way because I literally don't know much. Like I'm a senior in high school. Like I was afraid there was gonna be this big case and like doctors are running around and I'm just like staying there in the way. So that was kind of a fear of mine, which never happened. And then I also was not qualified to actually do anything really. Besides the shocking of the heart, which is amazing. But I was not, I want to help everybody sort of, like that's me, and even with like CNA, but I knew that like I'm in an ER, this is going to be so different, like you can't do anything really. So that was kind of like a hard thing for me to just kind of like have to watch everything, but it made me more excited for like my future. And mostly just being able to observe. And then so the skills that I developed, so I actually took a lot more out of this than I thought I was going to, just because I wasn't able to do like much participation. But I think like me observing, I took away so much more. So I learned about all that time management, and not only for myself, because I was juggling so many things, like I was doing this, soccer, work, but I also learned like time management from a physician's assistant and like any really doctors in the ER, because there was a day where there was like probably like 30 patients in the ER, like they were in the hallways, it was just so busy, and there's only 2 PAs like in the whole emergency room, so you have like 15 patients like a person, so it was just like, it was kind of an eye-opener how much they really had to do. Like if they had 5 minutes to eat a sandwich, like they would do that because they haven't eaten all day. Like, but it's just from like seeing every single patient and then ordering their labs, getting their labs back. Like you just have to really make sure that all of your, like you have to make sure you have time for everything. So it really made me appreciate the job more. And then teamwork. I'm part of a soccer team, so like I know a lot about teamwork, but it was nice to be able to apply it to like a job and a career. And from treating one patient, like I didn't realize how much help that you really needed. Like it's not just one person treating a patient. You have like your nurses, and then you have like the radiologists, which when you send labs, you have to have them read them and give them back to you. So it was just amazing to me how much people it took to come to a conclusion about one patient. And then patience. So you need to have a lot of patience when you're working in the ER, because it just, everybody, like the patients that are in there, like they'll be there for like 5-6 hours. Like everything just takes so long, and it's the constant, like the patients asking you like when their labs are going to be back, like when you're going to know, and it's kind of like you have to have that patience yourself, because your actual patients are going to be asking you about it like a lot, and you're going to have to be like, okay, I don't have your scans back, like I don't know when they're going to come back, but I will be in your room as soon as they do. So that's kind of like the time management thing too. If you have like 15 patients asking when their scans are going to get back, you kind of have to like really, juggle that. And then problem solving. So I learned a lot about problem solving as well, because with everything in the ER, like everything you have to problem solve, because you don't know anything about like the patient. Like they'll come in. There was one lady who came in, and all of her like medical history was at like a hospital in New York, so like we didn't have anything, so it was kind of just like free, like you don't know anything, so you kind of just have to do what you can, but everything is problem solving, just ruling out any diagnosis that the patient could have, which is also why I absolutely love this internship, because it was so like fast paced, and I'm also a person that needs a fast paced environment, and I absolutely loved it. So how will this internship affect my future? So it will give me more medical field experience, and since I want to be a PA in the ER, I already kind of have that foot in, and I have that experience of the ER, so I kind of like know how it works, like the fast-paced environment and everything like that. It will help me land further internships, because the reason I chose to go to Hofstra is because of all of the internships that they do offer for medicine. So this will be like an amazing kind of foot in the door for that as well, just to have on my resume so I can do more things like this. And then I also am ahead of the game, and I've learned so much that like not many people my age know, or even in my major. Like I learned how to do sutures already, and I'm going to have to learn how to do that in the future, so I'll kind of already have like a leg up, which I'm very fortunate about. And then again, it will help my exposure in the emergency department, and it will just help me feel more comfortable, like, especially like the conversation that I had with like the patient and her like end of life. Like I'm still so grateful that I participated in that and didn't choose to stay out of it like was offered, because I'm going to have those conversations like either way. So it was kind of just like, now that I already experienced it, like I'm not going to be afraid to have that conversation. Any questions?
I think you did great.
Thank you.
How did you meet the PA that you had? You know, a family friend?
Yeah, she was a family friend, and then I started doing a lot of like shadowing with her, and then I kind of just was like, hey, like I'm doing this internship, can I do it? Because I had her number, like we're like very close in that aspect. So she was like, yeah, of course. So it was nice. Yes.
Did you get to look at any other x-rays?
Yeah, so I actually looked at another skill that I learned too was to always review your scans that you get back from the radiologist, because sometimes there can be, like, nothing against them, but sometimes they can like miss something and stuff like that, so you just want to make sure that you know how to read everything. So I was able to look at like CAT scans, which I still don't really know how to read, because they're very hard. But I learned like x-rays, just like bones. Like there was a broken collarbone that we saw, which came back as unremarkable, so that would mean like there's nothing wrong with it. But then she looked at the scan and there was like a break, and so I was able to see the break, and I guess that it was right. But yeah, that's pretty much it.
Do you think you
Yeah, so the emergency room is I need something that's high paced. I kind of because I just have that personality. I need to be something new every day, or else I'm gonna get tired of it and bored. So my experience has definitely made me want to do it even more. And even some of them are like, don't do it. You're gonna be so stressed out, because it's very stressful. But I just can't see myself doing anything else, because I've just followed my mom around at work, or just people who are regular doctors, and even my pediatrician. I just can't really see myself not being in the ER with not having time to think. I'm just yeah.
So my internship was at Trinity Point Wealth in Milford, Connecticut. Okay, so hi, my name's Dia DeRuca. I'm a senior at Jonathan Law High School, and I will be attending Duke University in the fall. I plan on double majoring in economics with a concentration in finance, and then statistical science with a concentration in data science. So I intern at Trinity Point Wealth. This is everyone that works at Trinity Point Wealth, the office in Milford. So just 3 things that they focus on. One is financial planning, retirement plan services, and then institutional consulting. And then I'll get into more of that later on. So this is Jana. She was my official site supervisor. She's also a partner at the firm and the chief operating officer. So she manages all of the operations in the firm and kind of just oversees all of the investments and clientele that they're dealing with. She's been working at Trinity since 2000, and she attended Central Connecticut State University. So next, this is Jim, otherwise known as James Metzik. He is a partner and the CEO, and he got his bachelor's in economics and history from Trinity College. So although Jana was my site supervisor, I also worked with Jim very closely because he oversees everything in the office. So the main things I really worked with him were if he needed anything faxed or scanned or printed, because he does not like using the machine at all. I just don't know if he knows how to do it. So I also worked with Eric Pessuri. So he's the CIO and also a senior wealth advisor, and this is who I worked with mostly. He got his bachelor's in economics from Fairfield University, and then a lot of the tasks that I'll get into later were from him. Next is JR, otherwise Joseph Romano. He is a wealth advisor at the firm, and he got his bachelor's in history from Trinity College. So later on I talk about an investment challenge that we did, and he was the one to oversee that. So I met with him a lot about just investments and stocks generally. And he also is very good at looking at market trends and the news and kind of predicting why stocks are down, why they're up, and different trends that he thinks will happen in the future, so that was also interesting. And then this is Jen. So she is a senior client associate and also the marketing coordinator, and she graduated from Marist College. She was actually the one who I ended up getting the internship from, so I worked with her a little bit on marketing as well for the firm. So why Trinity? So the main reason I picked Trinity was their focus on wealth management and investments. I didn't want to do my internship at like a bank or anything because I do want to go into investment banking and really like quantitative finance. So I really wanted to have a site that focused on both of those things. And it's kind of hard to find a wealth management firm or investment advisory firm in Milford, especially because a lot of the headquarters are mainly in either Westport or Fairfield or Stamford and obviously New York. So it was really nice that this was local. They also do institutional consulting, which I really liked because not only do they manage investment accounts for like actual people, but they manage investments for businesses and even like towns, and they manage retirement plans for different towns as well. So it's also interesting to see that aspect of consulting as well and financial planning. They are also located in North Carolina as well. So that picture was from everyone in the Milford office, but they also have a team located in Charlotte, North Carolina. So it was also nice to know that when I do go to North Carolina, they're also there. So that was also a nice little added thing to have. And then the Boys and Girls Club of Milford, Connecticut, that is how I ended up getting the internship. Jim is he's one of the head board members on the Milford Boys and Girls Club board. So at their gala, which I spoke at, he was there, as well as mainly every single person from Trinity Point Wealth, since they were the biggest donors. And I ended up in my speech mentioning how I was looking for an internship because I had a little trouble finding a placement, and they ended up coming up to me and asking me if I would intern with them. So that is how I ended up starting there. So the Business of Trinity. So if you go on their website, you'll find this quote. It says, "We believe that not only by understanding what's most meaningful to you can we customize financial solutions for growing, preserving, and transferring wealth that align with your goals and vision. Whether you're planning for retirement, going through a transition, or thinking about selling your business, whatever stage of life you're in, we're here to serve all of your financial needs, delivering innovative investment solutions based on our decades of experience, and putting all the pieces of your financial life in place with ongoing proactive management and oversight. We work to help you achieve the things you care about most." So to sum that all up, basically, Trinity is not just a wealth management firm. They really care about their clients, and not only, again, do they manage people, but they manage businesses, and they do retirement planning as well. So they're very well versed and diverse in the different services that they perform for their clients. And they also really have a focus for their clients. They are always on the phone with their clients, making sure that not only they're doing what they believe, but what their clients also want, and they really cater to their clients' needs as well. And also, it's not mentioned in the quote, but they're also very philanthropic, so they are on a lot of boards of nonprofit organizations, the Boys and Girls Club, for example, but they also are with the Milford Chamber. So it's really nice that they have a lot of community involvement and that they're really proactive with nonprofits and just the Milford community as a whole, which is really nice to see. So my expectations going into it were that I would be shadowing, working with Jen on blog posts because she's the one who gave me the internship, so I figured I'd be working like solely with her, and only assisting a little because I don't have financial experience. So I really didn't think I would be doing anything when I went there because it's a financial firm, right? Like, I didn't think, oh, like, you're gonna go make a trade or you're gonna like manage these people's portfolios. Like, I really never expected that. I actually ended up doing a lot more than I thought I would, but I just kind of imagined myself just sitting and watching, which is not at all what my experience ended up being like, but that's what I expected. So my first responsibility was Orion and Morningstar portfolio reports. So those are those two images right there. Obviously, they're not real reports because that's illegal to show. So basically, I ran portfolio reports for a lot of their clients. So I ended up going in the system, and for Orion, I ended up doing a 2021 yearly report and then a 2022 quarterly report, which kind of just shows how the investments are doing for the year and then for the quarter. And I learned a lot about the different types of reports. So for example, for Orion reports, when you do the report, you have to take out any 529 custodial or any charitable accounts because they don't accurately depict how the portfolio is doing, right? A 529 doesn't include stocks, so if that's included in the portfolio, that's money that's not really coming from the portfolio. And then Morningstar is kind of just it's an advanced version of Orion, basically. It's more of an advanced portfolio. So Morningstar is a little bit more tedious. You have to go through the client's account and input every single stock that they have, and you enter it by shares. And then you also have to input any cash investments that they have, which you'll input in like a bond because it's $1 per share. So anyways, so that's why you input everything that the client has. And when you input it, you can calculate the portfolio report up until that quarter. So in this case, it'd be like May 31st because June just started. So it would show everything up to that quarter, how the portfolio is performing, and you always put a benchmark for the report. So based on how many stocks and bonds, the ratio that they have, if they have like 70% stocks and bonds, you do a 70-30 benchmark. And you'd compare the portfolio to how the benchmark should perform. So when you print out the portfolio report as well as the 3-year report, you get a little graph that shows you the benchmark, how the benchmark should perform, and then how your portfolio is performing. So ideally, you should be performing above the benchmark, and that's what most of their portfolios do, actually all of them. Another thing I did was blog posts. I actually only ended up creating one blog post, but it was on cryptocurrency, and that was one of my responsibilities for their marketing. They have, on their website, they have something called TWPW Insights, and they have just a lot of blog posts, just kind of headlines about things that are interesting, like in the market right now. So one of their blog posts is on retirement, another one, cryptocurrency or I-bonds, just things that are relevant to the market today. And I thought that was really nice because they're giving their clients like information that's on their page that they can access, for further reading. I also attended a lot of meetings. So I attended investment meetings, which I just got back from today. I had one before and then today. So during the investment meetings, they kind of just go over overall stock trends that they see. They go over what stocks are doing well, what stocks are doing bad. Do they want to sell anything? Do they want to hold anything for now? Do they want to buy any stocks that they're looking at? What do they expect to happen in future market trends? So kind of just an overall depiction of the market, how it stands, and what they continue in the future. I also attended a JP Morgan meeting. So Trinity Point Wealth uses JP Morgan's funds. So JP Morgan had some of their fund people come in to the office and they met with the CIO. So I got to sit in on the meeting, and I learned that they have JP Morgan's U.S. equity stock international fund and their U.S. hedged equity. So it was really interesting to hear about those 3 different funds, how they perform. Like the hedged equity, for example, is basically a safer version of a U.S. equity fund, and it kind of provides you little safeguards so that if the market is doing bad, you don't have as much risk, so you're not performing as bad. But also if the market does well, because you are in a hedge equity fund, you can't perform as well as, say, a U.S. equity fund. So that was also interesting to see. And then I also attended a CPA meeting, which they obviously have accounting. So the CPA came in and kind of talked about LLCs, S Corps, C Corps, and it was just interesting to hear about those different corporations, how they operate, and kind of how it interacts with financial services. Because you wouldn't think, right, what does a CPA have to do with a wealth advisor investment firm? But like, they really do, because clients will ask Trinity Point Wealth questions about taxes for businesses and the different laws, so they have to know that, which is why they have the CPA. So another one of my responsibilities was creating a 31-day trade spreadsheet. So it's basically a spreadsheet due to a new tax harvesting law. So when Trinity Point Wealth sells a certain stock, they are not allowed to buy back that stock after 31 days, because when you sell the stock at a loss, you get a tax deduction. So because of, there's different laws that go into it, but basically you can't get too much money from the loss, right? That's the whole point of the 31 days. You have to wait 31 days before you can buy it back. But they sold so many different stocks, and they sold them for so many different clients. So they really had to go back after 31 days. Now it's been 31 days. So they have to go back, look at the stocks they sold, which clients they sold it to, what was the proceeds from that loss, how much was the percent loss, what was the stock, and they go through the spreadsheet, analyze everything, and I made the spreadsheet, and now they have to analyze it and basically see, well, should we actually buy back the stock? Like, what did we sell it for? Is it worth buying it back now? And they have actually bought back some of the stocks now, but, like, it's important to look at it because you can't just, like, blindly make the stock, like, purchase the stock back again. So another thing I did was organizing different spreadsheets. So for the CIO, I worked with him. I organized some of his spreadsheets, by certain like market value or other columns by certain stocks, and I got rid of a lot of like spreadsheets, like certain columns that he didn't need. So like just like office work for that. And then we also did a stock simulator challenge on Investopedia, sponsored by Fidelity. So I got to actually create my own stock portfolio, and I got to pick all the stocks that I wanted to invest in. We had $100,000, fake money, of course, and you got to pick the stocks, and you got to see how your like portfolio is performing. And it's like it's the real market, fake money, but it's the real market. So it's like really interesting to see, and like we're competing. It's like all the interns like competing against each other. So that's also like kind of like fun, like competitive. And then I also. One of my other responsibilities was doing a cryptocurrency project. So I'm presenting on Wednesday my cryptocurrency project. So I focused on 3 cryptocurrencies: Ethereum, Dogecoin, and Bitcoin. And Polygon, actually. So I researched all those different cryptocurrencies, and then I would like present what I learned about them and just like different like, like, should you invest in cryptocurrency, should you not? And it was nice because I did my blog post on cryptocurrency as well, so I had already like some information. And then another thing I did was organize SMAs. So SMAs are separately managed accounts. So Trinity Point Wealth also has like separately managed accounts that they have. So one of them, they manage like the town of North Haven, their retirement funds. So I organized a lot of those accounts, and they have like new ones. So creating different folders, subfolders, and going through emails and like making sure like all of the files are in like where they need to be, and that they're not just like floating around places. So one of the accomplishments that I did was I got to do a stock trade. I obviously can't show that because that's, again, illegal. But I got to do a stock trade. I like actually got to, like for a real client, I got to like get the stock. This one, like we bought it. So it was like 100 shares, and I got to like actually like buy the stock for the client. So just like clicking the button, knowing that like I made that trade. Like, I don't know, it probably sounds boring, but it was so fun. It was so much fun. Like, I got to like make the trade for the person. And then I also got to sell a trade for one of the clients, and that one, the client asked for the stock to be sold, so that's why they did it. I also got to generate portfolio reports. So this is a fake portfolio on Morningstar. This is what it actually looks like. It's fake, obviously, but so it shows like the cash, the U.S. stocks, non-U.S. stocks, and bonds. So how they calculate the benchmark is you look at the U.S. stocks and the bonds. So in this case, they have, it looks like 43 in stocks and then 23 in bonds, so roughly like 66. So you'd probably do like a 70-30 benchmark on the portfolio, and then this is for 3 years how it performed compared to the benchmark. So the red line is the portfolio and the benchmark is the blue line. So in this case, at the end, the portfolio actually underperformed the benchmark. In Trinity's case, they've never underperformed. Like all of their stock portfolio have been outperforming the benchmark, and that's really interesting to see. I actually got to, for my stock portfolio, I got to see how I compared with the benchmark. So my benchmark would be the S&P 500 because I only had stocks. So the S&P 500 is the general index for all of the stocks in the market. Like if you want to invest and you know nothing about stocks, you invest in the S&P 500. That's like the safest thing you can do. So because you're not managing it, but obviously they manage their own funds. So I got to see like how my portfolio like has been performing against the S&P, and is it beating it? Is it not beating it? That kind of thing. So this is my stock portfolio that I made. So these are actually this is actually all the stocks that I invested in, and like my account value. So my annual return is 320%. And right now I'm currently ranked 1, so I need to stay that way. This is the end of the week, so I need to stay that way. But so like this is like my portfolio. So like I started out here, then I dropped down a bit, and then I went back up. But these are all the stocks that I invest in, and it shows you like today's change and like your total gain or loss, and what you purchased it for, how much you have of it, your total value, and what its current price is. So something really interesting that I learned, like how I picked my portfolio was obviously it's very short term. Like, I'm not investing for long term because it's only like the weeks of my internship. So that was one thing. Another thing was right now the market is not performing very well due to high inflation. So when I met with JR, he was like, you have to really consider like what should you invest in during inflationary times, right? Don't invest in, typically Apple or Google, like those are the names that you would think of. But right now, like Apple, Google, they're not performing as well, and they're value stocks, so they won't grow anymore, right? Apple, they're not gonna like grow 1,000%. They're gonna stay relatively at the same growth rate. So that's like one thing to consider. And like right now in the market, energy is doing really well. So considering I'm only investing for a short time, I put a lot of my funds in the energy sector, which is where like the $3,000, $1,000, $2,500, those all came from energy stocks, and that's why I invested most of my money in an energy stock, because I knew that's what's performing well in the market right now. So, spearheading the tax law, I made the spreadsheet for the 31-day trades, and I was able to like write down everything, all of the values, like should you buy it back, should you not, and I gave it to the CEO, CIO, and now they're going to be able to look back at it and kind of like go over it and see like should we actually buy back the stock or not. And then I also learned risk analysis. So this is something else that comes up when you do a portfolio report. So this would be just like general risk, and this would be how your portfolio is performing. And that would be how your portfolio is performing, and these would be all of the different funds that you have and where they perform on risk. So ideally, you want to be in this category, this one. You want low risk, high return, right? That's what everyone wants. So obviously that portfolio would be performing well, and then you never want to be in this category, high risk, low return, because you're not doing well. So yeah. And then I learned about different cryptocurrencies. So this is one of my slides from my presentation. So this one was on Polygon, but this was one of the things that I was able to learn. I did not know anything about cryptocurrency before I stepped into Trinity Point Wealth, but like now I know a bunch about it. I mean, I knew about like Bitcoin, which I'm sure everyone has heard, but I never knew like all the different things that go into it and about like the blockchain and all of the different systems that go into it. So that was really interesting to learn. And then I also gained new insights into retirement plans. So like I said, Trinity Point Wealth also does retirement plan services. So I was able to learn about like 401k plans, Roth IRAs, but also about how companies structure their retirement plans. Like I know people have retirement plans, but I never really thought about how companies would structure it to employees, because obviously every employer should offer retirement plan benefits to an employee, because when you look for a job, you look at retirement plan benefits. If one company offers you retirement plan benefits, the other one doesn't, you're not going to go for the one that doesn't. So it's a very good thing for companies to have to stay competitive within the job market. So that was also really interesting to look at from that perspective. Writing blog posts. So this was my cryptocurrency article, part of it. So it was about like, is cryptocurrency the future of money? And I made like a description for the site and then for their social media. And this was like part of my article that I wrote. So that was also really interesting to learn about. And then lastly, building connections. I met a lot of great people at Trinity Point Wealth, and I made like a lot of connections with them. And because it's literally exactly what I want to go into. Like I worked with the CIO, that's basically who I worked with the entire time. So considering that is literally what I want to do in the future, it was really nice to like build those connections, especially because they'll be in North Carolina as well. And I was able to meet them as well on different conference calls. So one of the challenges was nervousness to make a mistake, and then also like learning and understanding all of the new information. So they kind of go hand in hand. So after I did one of my portfolio reports the first time, the Orion ones, the CIO basically came up to me and was like, okay, here's my emails, you go through them, he's asking for all these reports, you do the reports, you can reply to the email. So I kind of like impersonated him, and I did all the reports for the clients, and like I types back the email to the guy that was asking him, like, oh, like, he's, hi, Eric. I'm like, oh, here you go. Sincerely, Eric. Like, that's me, I guess. So, like, it was really nice to, like, do all that stuff, but it was also, like, I was like, do you want to, like, check them, you know, make sure they're right? No, it's fine. Like, you know, so it was, like, it was just, like, a lot of pressure, and it was, like, I was like, oh, I really hope I did this right, because, like, if I don't, it's kind of not good. So it was just like, it was just like a lot of pressure that like I didn't think I'd be having. Like I thought I'd just be watching. Like I actually like, for part of the time I went into his office and I was at his office. He was at the intern desk and I was at his office doing the work. So it was just like I really just didn't want to mess up. So that was like the main challenge I had. So the skills that I developed, investment skills, I learned a lot of different things about investments and just about the market in general. Like I feel like a big thing that people think about investment people is that, oh, like you just look at the stock market, how hard can that be? But it really is quite difficult, and it's not just about the market, but also about the clients, like not just the investment skills, but also the people that you're dealing with. If clients are losing money, they want to back out. And the big thing that you have to do as a financial planner or like investment advisory person is you have to make sure that they don't back out, because that's the worst thing you can do is back out when the market's not doing well. But obviously like everyone has like fear, and like if the market's doing bad, like you want to pull out. So it's not even just about managing the investments, but also like managing your clients and like making sure that they feel comfortable and they know like that you're doing a good job and that you have their best interest at heart. So that was one of the things. Technology, I got to work with, Excel a lot, like rather than Google Sheets. I worked with mostly before, so it was nice to go on Excel and like learn all that stuff. And I learned how to scan. I never knew how to do that before, so that was nice too. Marketing, I got to learn a lot of marketing skills. I sat down in like one of the marketing meetings and got to see like how an investment company does their marketing. And Trinity Point Wealth like does a great job at it with their blog posts and how they stay so active in the community. So that was also nice to see that aspect of it. Time management. I got a lot of tasks all at once that needed to be completed very, very quickly. So it was just like a lot to handle and like juggle and like just manage my time and make sure that like they're being done when they need them to be. I mean, I was there for a long time, like from 9 to like 4. So it was a lot of time, but it was a lot of tasks as well that were very tedious. Problem solving. A lot of the times when there were different accounts, there were like certain things that you had to like look at and just like kind of know that, oh, like this account shouldn't include this stock, because you just had to like figure it out and kind of like gain like those like analysis skills. So I kind of was able to like develop that skill as I went on. So like looking at an account, if I see the 3-year performance and like I could look at it and be like, okay, well that 3-year performance is too high, like we like missed something, or like one of the stocks like shouldn't be in there. So it's just like those kind of things. And then communication. Everyone at Trinity, no matter like what their job is, interacts with one another. The marketing person interacts with the CIO, like everyone interacts, and so you really have to have that line of communication, and that was a big thing that I saw there. So that was also a nice skill to develop. So future help. So experience in the finance investment industry, obviously, it's not everyone is able to have this level of experience, especially at a young age. So that was really nice to have, and that would help me like not only like connections with the people here and then in North Carolina as well. And then it would be able to be on my resume so that I could have other jobs and internships. Like, I don't know how many people can say, oh, like, I actually made a trade, like, as a senior in high school. Like, it's not, I think I also really got lucky with Trinity Point Wealth that they were able to let me do this kind of stuff, because I don't think a lot of firms, like, would actually let a high schooler do this. But, so it was really nice to do that and, like, say, like, oh, like, I get to, like, actually do a portfolio report on my own, which was also nice as well. Immediate future plans. So working during the summer, and then I will be attending Duke in the fall, and my major will stay the same, economics with concentration in finance, and then data science as well. And I think Trinity kind of just solidified that is what I want to do in the future, because I was kind of worried that you know, like you hear, oh, like it's so boring, like you just look at the market. Oh, it's not boring at all. It's so much fun. I mean, like the CIO is actually out today. He's on vacation. He's calling in. Are you just looking at what's happening in the market right now? I don't know. Like it's just so fun to like look at it and kind of, it's just interesting to see how it goes with the real world. Like for example, today during the investment meeting, Apple just reported that their newest iPhone, they're going to release their newest iPhone, but then after that, there's no more iPhones. It's a headset now, and it'll come out. Oh, you didn't? Yeah, it's a headset. So you know how when you see on TV, you literally have like a headset and you press it, and then like the screen appears like in front of you? That's what they're releasing. It's not a traditional iPhone anymore. So that's why their stock went up, right? Like that they're reporting like, oh my God, like we're doing this cool thing, future earnings, like that's what we're gonna do. And like vice versa, if one of the companies, I think it was Elon Musk said that Tesla like wouldn't have any like more earnings, and that, you know, like their stock would, you know, like they just wouldn't have as high earnings anymore. So their stock went down. So it's like those kind of things that you kind of have to look at, and globally as well, where Hong Kong just released their COVID quarantine protocols. So now if you invest in the global market, that's something that you would want to invest in, because now their stock prices would go up because consumer spending. So it's just nice to see those interactions as well. Oh, it's not gonna. It doesn't go any. Oh, there it goes. So then also joining finance and investment clubs at Duke. Okay, that's it. Any questions?
Really good job.
I was in Luke's this morning. He said he's only a couple $1,000s behind you, though. Is that true?
No, now I'm more up. Well, as before, yes, but now today, I made the gap wider.
Oh, he won't be happy about that.
No, it ends in like 2 days, so hopefully it stays like this. I need the market to do bad, because that's when I do good.
I did my internship at Coastal Material Testing, LLC. I don't know what that stands for, but it stands for something. My name is Arazi Berhimi. I'm a senior at Jonathan Law, and I will be majoring civil engineering in the fall at Central Connecticut. Where did I intern? Coastal Material Testing in West Haven, Connecticut. Who was my site supervisor? My site supervisor was Hinder and Saeed. He's been a civil engineer for like a couple of years now. He got his bachelor's at Central Connecticut. And he actually, a couple days ago, he went to Jeff Bezos' house to like do some construction work, like one of his houses, like in New York. I thought that was pretty cool. That was like pretty cool to me, because he's like some big like construction thing or whatever. I don't know, but that was pretty cool to me. Why did I choose this site? Because I wanted to gain some hands-on experience of what I'll be doing in my future, because that's what I want to do. And it wasn't very far from my home, and it sounded pretty cool to become like going to like a a lab. I don't know what it was, but like a testing lab. That sounded pretty cool to me. What's the business of the site? The business of coastal materials testing is to receive concrete samples, usually shaped as a cylinder like this, and after you like open it, like with like a hammer and like a thing. It's like in the next slide, but and you would test its PSI, like pounds per square inch, using like a machine, and like it would break it and test if it's able to handle like a certain amount that's been given to, and it would be either approved or denied depending on where it broke, whether it broke or not, and the results will be sent back because it has to be able to handle like a certain amount, because if it doesn't, then like a building can like collapse and they'll be like on them, you know. My expectations prior to the internship was like, I thought I would mostly be like outside and like doing construction at some like type of spot. I don't know what it was, but I had no idea what I was gonna do, because a testing lab, I don't know what that meant, and I thought I would like move around, build things, you know, whatnot, and yeah. What were my responsibilities? This is what I usually looked before, and you have to like get this, I don't know what it was called, like some type of nail, and like you would put it at an angle for some reason, and you would hammer it into it, and you get this air pressure thing. You would get that, and you would put it in the hole, and then it would pop open, and you would take it out, and after that you would get like a marker and write what is said on this thing right here, and you would write it on top of the thing, on top, and after that you would have to log it in the book, so because everything needs to be organized and whatnot, and oh yeah, and throw out any like broken pieces that used to be that would get broken by the breaking thing. I don't know what it's called, but by the broken thing, and then you would get there would be like usually lots of buckets everywhere, and you have to throw it out into like a truck in the back. And it was mostly a lot of physical work. Like I have to work all day and whatnot. I'll be like sweaty. I take a shower every day. This is the curing room. That's what they called it. It's like a steamy room. That's what I called it, a steamy room, because it was like steam everywhere, and and then it was like a steamy room. You have to put it in there for a certain amount of days. It's usually 7, 28, and 56, because after 28 days, that's where the strength of the concrete like usually gets like its maximum amount is after like 28 days, and 56 is it usually just stops after 56 days. And yeah. What were my challenges? The first week I didn't really know what to do. I asked like a lot of questions and stuff like that, because this is what you usually have to write on a concrete thing, like something like this, like 4572, whatever. Sweeney is like the company name, and you have to write 7 days, and 4.5K is the pounds per square inch, and the date it was made, and the date it was broken, and the initial by the person that made the concrete. And also, actually, we had to do some concrete samples for like the McDonald's next to Jonathan Law. I thought that was pretty cool. I thought it was some type of like a code name, but it was actually the McDonald's. But yeah, and we usually do like stuff like that, like Rabbit Hill, like it's a road in some place, and I don't know what the numbers mean. I should have asked something about that, but I don't know what the numbers mean. But this is the buckets that usually be left over after they get broken, and you put them in the buckets and put them in the back of a truck, like right here. This is the 3 usual concrete things I used to make it, or whatever, put a hole in and open them. Like this little cube one, and these two look the same, but they're actually pretty different in real life. Like one of them, this one's like way heavier, and this is like this small in real life, and this one's like that, like way bigger. And this is what I usually like copy from this and put it onto here. Usually sets of 5. Sometimes different companies like O&G, they'll come in sets of 9, or our company usually made some too, for I don't know what reason, but we usually made some too. there used to be like usually a lot would come in, so like I would do like a bunch of them, and like some guy would come with like a lot more, just keep on coming and just working there all day, and I would write them down like and stuff like that, and sometimes I would write the wrong information on there, so because I would be writing all day, I'd just like be daydreaming while writing on it, stuff like that. I'd just be daydreaming, and sometimes I would just like write the wrong information. Some person will come in like, oh, this is wrong. I'm like, oh my god. I'd like write on the side of it, like cross it out and stuff like that. Also, in the curing room, I made like a big mistake. It was like when I first started, you have to like stack them on top, right? And like I would stack them on top like the first days, and then it like knocked over. The next day I came in, like created like a domino effect, because they're all close to each other. This is like, oh yeah, I forgot to explain. This is like the dates, it's like all numbered, like it's both sides. It's the dates, it will be broken. That's how you're supposed to put it at. The date they will be broken. Yeah, you're supposed to be the date that they were broken, but I put like a stack of 4, and I guess it was like really curved. I just left it there, and the next day I came back, it was like all over the place. And I was very embarrassed. Yeah, I didn't take a picture of it, of course. But this is usually lots of them. And I would have to take the plastic containers after I open them and put them in like plastic bags, and because they would reuse it because it's cheaper that way. And after 3 times they reuse it, you're supposed to throw it out because I think it would like puff up, yeah, and stuff and like that. And another challenge of mine, it was like I guess I made the hole like too small, something like that, and like I put the air thing inside of it, and like it blew up in my face. Like I couldn't hear for like 5 minutes, like really loud, really loud. And that's when I bought like those ear protection things, 'cause like everything in there is like so loud. Yeah, I don't know how they do it. It's like super loud. And sometimes one of these things would come in like very fresh, because I think they made it today, and like you have to like dry it up with that air pressure thing, so I could write on it. It was like super hard to write on. How did the internship affect me? It's communication skills, because I don't really talk to people. I'm usually home all day and playing video games. Helped me better develop organization skills, because they have to be set. You can't mix them up, because you can't mix them up at all, because that'll be very bad. But I have to set them like in a straight line. Put the cone. It's like the plastic things. After I open them, I have to like leave one over there to like someone would come in and make sure that I actually did it right, because sometimes I would make some mistakes. It taught me some new skills and introduced me how concrete works. I never knew any about this stuff, and it showed me like I really do want like this to be in my future. Like I really do want this. Will this internship affect me in the future? I do believe it will help me in the future and extra understanding, because most people in college, they don't get like hands-on experience like this, like such early on. Because I was told that some people that graduate for like engineering, like they always learn about the basics and stuff like that, but they never like actually learn how to really do it like in real life and stuff like that. And helped me like continue and believe that this is what I truly want in life, to like become a civil engineer, because most of my family's engineers, and they helped me get this internship because he knows a guy, and whatever, they know a guy, and they helped me got this internship at this place. And yeah, my immediate future plans is take a college summer course at Central Connecticut, something about English, and they offered me a job over there, so I'm gonna take that job. Yeah, I'm gonna take that job over there, because they really do need help, because they're always busy and all over the place and stuff like that. And attend college in Central Connecticut, take a vacation to Florida. Any questions?
You're good.
All right.